It's an article about Mari Gilbert. It's interesting. I'll read it out. Receiving a scathing email from Mari Gilbert was not entirely unexpected. She was a confrontational person, but just brusque, but antagonistic even with those closest to her. I cannot believe all the lies you wrote about my family and I. You should be ashamed of yourself, she wrote in a 2013 email, a month before my book about her daughter's disappearance was published. How dare you write such trash? May karma slam you when you are least expecting it. By then, Mari had become most visible, most combustible, a figure in unsolved multiple murder case with many as 13 victims, many of them still unidentified, even still today. There have been no arrests, no suspects, this is at the time, interest in searching Long Island serial killer, but there would have been no case at all if it hadn't been for Mary's eldest daughter, Shannon, who disappeared in the 1st of May 2010 on the middle of an escort call in the remote South Shore community of Oak Beach. Months later, the search for Shannon turned up 4 other sets of bone skeletons and no clothing or jewelry, all wrapped in burlap and deposited near another just on the shoulder of Ocean Parkway. Like Shannon, all 4 of these victims were escorts who advertised on Craigslist. I wrote about Mary and her family members of the New York victims, first for New York Magazine in 2011 and then in my book for 2013, Lost Girls, which now has been adapted into a Netflix feature by director Liz Garbus. The film focused on Mary, played by Amy Ryans. I've not watched it. She struggles to get justice for her daughter, and the victim blaming of all the women in the case, I can imagine. And the real person in the movie, as a movie protagonist, Mary was compelling as she was mysterious. I'd seen her blow up relationships more than once without warning, when with family members of other victims. She seemed uncomfortable with gut feelings, ill at ease with the moment things seemed most peaceful. There were any number of possible explanations for why she was this way. Perhaps it was immaturity, perhaps it was restlessness, but as with her daughter Shannon, no single thing would ever happen without Marie. In the early days of the case, she had come at my invitation to the New York City with Ellianville and participate in the profile. Mary was unique among those who came because her daughter Shannon technically was still missing. She didn't want to be part of this group. She felt superior to them in a way, insisting under her breath more than once that Shannon was not like those other girls, that she fought back against her assailants, that she wasn't a victim. But being shrewd, Mary also saw the utility of having allies in the struggle to find her daughter. She had active theories about what had happened to Shannon, and she craved support. Within a few weeks, she participated on a vigil at Oak Beach with other families, and then she developed her own following, people who had read about the case and seen her on TV. These people, most of them women, but not all became useful tools. Mary was good at harnessing energy of others to achieve her goals, even if that sometimes meant pitting her new friends one against another or vilifying the media that was giving her the attention she actually needed. After the first meeting, Mary kept me at a distance. A book about her and her daughters was not the kind of exposure she wanted. The circumstances of her family's life before Shannon disappeared might have been the last thing in the world she would want to make a public. She'd said on the day we met, I told my kids what happens in the house stays in the house. That's like basic given rule. I couldn't begrudge Mary that. It was so clear beyond everything else that she was in terrible pain. To shout from the rooftops that your daughter is missing when everyone in law enforcement is saying she's dead has to be one of the most anguished things any parent could endure. This emotional dilemma was what drew me to write about Mary and every other mother and sister linked to the unsolved case. Story: Lorraine, Muriel, Melissa, Lynn, Kim. As much as murder mystery, but must it have been like to have strangers calling your daughter a prostitute when you knew more than that she could have been anything, if she were still alive and could have proved to anyone how what that word meant nothing, had nothing to do with who she was. I shadowed the families of the missing women for a year, and in all that time Mary communicated with me only through intermediaries. She finally agreed to be interviewed in August 2012, several months after Shannon's remains had been found. That event had seemed to change her. Mary was still guarded, but also strangely genuine, ready to let the chips fall where they may. What she told me that day went a long way toward helping me understand her better. Her vagabond childhood, tragic relationships with men, determined self-sufficiency as a mother, and troubles raising Shannon. An interview 11 days with Shannon's sister, Cherie, shed even more light on Mary and the family, what they went through and why there were so much conflict in Shannon's life.